Hi, and welcome to Produce Talks, the CPMA podcast. I am your host and the CPMA Education Manager, Jason Gorley. Reminder, check out elearning.cpma.ca. There you can find out information on upcoming webinars, some more information on our podcast, and of course, you can find out all about our Produce Credentialing Program, available now. Before we get into this month's podcast, let's check in with Selena to find out about this month's Fresh Health Award winner.
Hi Jason, thanks for having me on again. I'm excited to let you all know that AgriFresh is our Fresh Health winner for the month of February. Along with their brand refresh, AgriFresh has adopted the Half Your Plate as their main message. Beyond adding the logo to their email signature, they've also branded their fleet of reefer trucks with the Half Your Plate message. They've also been using the Half Your Plate message to encourage healthy eating through the University of Manitoba's Bison football team. Congrats to AgriFresh and the team.
All right, this month on Produce Talks, we're kind of taking, well, I don't know if it's a visit back, but we're taking up a issue that we've identified back in the summer with the electronic logging devices coming into play. With electronic logging devices being phased into trucks in the United States and Transport Canada going to be implementing some similar requirements, we took an opportunity to connect with Jaret Moch, Senior Director of Logistics at Star Produce, to discuss what this could look like for the Canadian produce industry. Here we go. All right, and joining us today we have Jaret Moch, who's the Senior Director of Logistics for Star Group. Since last December, the phased-in compliance part of electronic logging device initiation, kind of commonly referred to as ELDs, has started in the United States, and we know that Canada's ELD is going through a regulatory process. So, as an industry that relies heavily on trucking to move our produce, how has this impacted the transportation side of things?
Well, certainly rates have gone up considerably, especially through Christmas and January. We started to see rates even out through February, but still considerably higher than we were used to paying pre-ELOGs in November. On some lanes, much as $3,000 as where it's leveled off. Along with that, and to support the rate increase, there's been less capacity out there, so more drivers have left the industry. And another thing that's made it a little more complex is drivers have had the privilege of being able to pick the loads they want to do, drivers or carriers, to be able to pick. So those with kind of the certainty of less waiting time and better use of their ELDs are chosen over ones that are more difficult. So anything with more than 3 picks is going to be considerably greater, because 3 picks is kind of the average that is expected to be able to load in one day.
Okay, so that's kind of what's happening short term. Long term, what do you think some of the impacts are going to be?
Long term, we're going to see the larger carriers are going to grow. They're going to absorb the smaller guys. The smaller guys, less than 20 trucks, are just not going to be able to get the utilization. We're going to see more team drivers, but the team trucks are going to be a premium. So we're going to need consolidation sheds. We're going to need point-to-point freight that's or trailers already preloaded in yards. So even that's taking even further than a consolidation, where the work is all done and the team trucks just hook up and go pin to pin. I think they run waffles out of California like that, and it seems to work pretty good.
So there was a 2-year awareness and transition phase for these U.S. regulations. So was the industry prepared? And is there something that could have been done better by industry or by government or by both?
Yeah, the industry really wasn't prepared. There were some larger carriers, probably our top 4 large carriers in Canada at least, and the big guys in the U.S. kind of always ran ELOGs, but they don't run produce. So as an industry, no, the preparation was poor. It was almost a disbelief that it was going to happen. Because it had been pushed twice already, there was a lot of hope and a lot of talk that it would be pushed again, or that a certain number of trucks in a fleet wouldn't have to face it. So if you had a 20 truck fleet or 25 trucks, or if you were based in, whatever, your truck was older, that you could get away with not having ELOGs. And those all prevented people from taking it serious and becoming in compliance. And even with the 90-day soft implementation that started December 18th, carriers, we had some small guys that we experienced running with, and part of the onboarding process was to ask if they're on ELOGs and how long have they been on ELOGs. And, we're not on it yet, but I'll be on it before the 90 days is up. Well, that once again, just not taking it serious and hoping they can squeeze more out of it until they actually had to do it. So what could have been done differently, maybe by the industry or by governments, was to hold themselves accountable, to get, an implementation policy in before December 18th, 90 days to December 18th instead of 90 days after December 18th.
It is already affecting transportation in Canada, as you mentioned. So what changes are being made? For example, are retailers advancing purchases effectively to allow for additional transport time on routes?
Some Canadian customers that we have added a day's transit on certain lanes inbound into Canada, which helps greatly for on-time service, but it doesn't necessarily help utilization. So it's catch 22. We get more time to be there as a carrier, but you don't necessarily want it. You still want to be able to do 4 days instead of 5. Or 5 instead of 6. And by the end of the month, which is how a truck driver will calculate their payments and their miles, they've lost at least a half of a rounder, which is that last rounder is where they're making pocket money. So that's how it's affecting us. And also on the Canadian side, most of the trucks that are in Canada the Canadian trucks are not just running Canada, they're running U.S. hours. And so when they get into Canada, they're affected by the 34-hour reset and affected by ELDs. So in some instances, the carriers that are delivering to our distribution warehouses in Canada are running out of hours simply because they're running ELDs, and they get stuck when they're not at truck stops, and they claim breakdowns when they shouldn't, and they should just say it didn't run their ELOG as well as they should have, or multiple things that are already affecting us on the Canadian side. So when we get to 2019 and it's here, and we can't shut the book off, well, wow, we'll be in trouble.
So what should companies be doing now to prepare for that?
Get the shippers to know what they're shipping and ship as tightly, almost like how aircrafts plan for departures. These sheds and shippers, they require the carriers to phone in and get an appointment for loading or for unloading. And those times need to be honored. And when they're not, the shippers need to be accountable for that lost time. They can't come back to the produce industry anymore to foot the bill when it's the shipper and their product that isn't ready. So carrier phones in, gets his appointment time for 8 p.m. or whatever the time is, and then he gets there, checks in, and wait. And if anything past 2 hours, and really the driver doesn't have the opportunity to gain that back through being efficient with the ELOG or driving a little faster, or there's nothing. After 2 hours, that's what the carriers are saying. Now you're taking away from revenue.
So is this just almost like a learning curve to learn this new system, or is it? I'm not sure. Like it just seems like there's almost a disconnect somehow.
Yeah, the learning curve is, it's I guess what's happened with ELOGs is the opposite effect of what we had with paper, where a driver used to watch time. Now with ELOGs, it's like time is watching the driver. Because as soon as he pushes the button, or in most cases with the updated technology that everyone will have to be on by April of 2018, once the wheels start turning, so you don't even have a few minutes to go down the road and press the button. As soon as the wheels start going, it's hooked to your engine, and time is watching you. So traffic is a problem, waiting in sheds, winter, going slower, every repair and breakdown along the way, border crossing delays, everything eats away and just continually makes Canada further and further away from the U.S. or point A further away from point B.
So lots of things that's beyond a driver's control.
Absolutely.
When the system comes into play in Canada, and I think we're assuming that it will the systems be the same or compatible, or are we talking you're going to have to work two completely different systems?
They will be the same.
And now it's time to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, Nature Fresh Farms.
Hi everyone, it's Ray here at Nature Fresh Farms. March signals the start of a new greenhouse season at our Leamington, Ontario farms. We have started picking cucumbers, tomatoes, and soon the sweet bell peppers. This means as the month progresses, local retailers will begin to see more Canadian products fill their shelves. We are proud to provide Canadian consumers with locally grown produce that tastes great and full of fresh. For more information about Nature Fresh Farms and how we grow, check us out on naturefreshfarms.ca, or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Thanks, Ray. And now back to the conversation. So anecdotally, I've heard from a couple people that some drivers are just deciding not to drive anymore. They're just hanging up their keys and walking away. I've also heard some drivers in Canada are no longer willing to go down to the States. Are you aware of these types of situations at all?
Yep, and they're very true. When we consider that the average age of the truck driver out there right now is between 55 and 58 on most fleets, we've got a fleet of drivers or an industry of truck drivers that's completely old school. And so the putting the E-log in the truck, they feel it's big brother's watching them. Well, I'm not doing it. I'm out of here. Then looking at the financial side, and when these guys are losing a day a week, essentially 25% of their income, they're out. Why would you do that, right? To be out on the road, they've chosen this lifestyle, they've been out on the road for what is, in essence, way longer than they need to make the same money that they used to on paper. So, not only has it affected us in Canada, but the drivers that used to drive in the U.S. from Mexico as well are also being affected because of, other laws in the U.S. that they started to enforce that we've had to live with, like the cabotage rule of not being able to do anything point to point in the U.S. We can't maximize what's left over in a logbook is where I'm going with that. So if you have done 4 hours and your recap allows you to do another 6 on a certain day, you can't use that anymore if you're in the U.S. It just burns to nothing because you can't go and do a local delivery and make some more revenue with your extra time. You have to sit there and wait until you can get a load, go back to Canada.
It sounds like there's a lot of issues with this implementation. So do you think this was a needed change? And is it achieving what the anticipated outcome was?
Being on both sides of that argument or discussion, we have seen drivers that have become more tired and less safe on the road because of just the way the E-logs work. And when driving time starts, you have to drive. You can't massage your book. So it's during your, what's that? Is it called circadian rhythm? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Your sleep pattern. So drivers can't match that up anymore. When it's time to go, it's time to go. And some guys are out there and they're way more tired than they used to be on paper. And because you can't massage your shed times and maybe go to sleep or pull away, when you're on duty, you're on duty. So instead of using those waiting times that just naturally occurred in our industry to your advantage to be able to sleep or go buy groceries or whatever, now you're on the clock and then you shut your book off and you're still awake. You spent your whole day doing nothing and you can't even go anywhere. You can't drive now. So then when your book does turn on and you can go, well, now you're tired and it's like you're driving through the wee hours of the morning when most accidents happen. So they're making less money, they're driving when they don't want to, and they're stuck in a truck for I don't necessarily know what the goal was, except that it regulates everyone and no one can cheat the system. With paper logs, when people got into trouble for cheating their book and, hit a school bus full of kids because he was falsifying his logbook and he shouldn't have been on the road at that time, well, this eliminates that. You're only on the road when you can be on the road. Whether you're tired or not is another question, but...
So it's eliminating one problem, but maybe making another one.
Yes.
So let's talk about some of the changes that this could drive. I mean, this system, I've had one person ask me to ask you if you'll see that this system, maybe it's going to make changes so there's more regional networks as opposed to long hauls. Is that something that could happen because of this?
Oh, yeah, it's like you're reading my notes. A big push that I've been working with one carrier in the U.S. Is to start not regional trucks so much. That'll be a result of it, but a shared nationwide trailer pool. So almost like Uber trailer, I don't know, where there'll be certain centers, yards, basically switch yards at certain shift points in the U.S. So there'll be, the city drivers that can pick up that are exempt within a 100-mile radius. You're exempt of E-logs. So these guys could pick up the freight. Then the long-haul driver, or what would in essence be a regional driver at that point, can pick up and take it to the switch yard. And he would have his 10 hours off, and he would take another trailer destined to go back the other way to that unloading point or that city point. So, if it was LA to St. George, Utah, or something like that. That could be just a lane where drivers would just run back and forth, or Calgary to Twin Falls, Idaho, where Canadian drivers could do the same kind of regional work and drive that full shift, take their rest period, and come back with freight, take freight down. And a whole network all the way across North America could work. And in reality, the math shows that these guys could put more miles on their trucks and be home more often. So better quality of life and better revenue if somehow all carriers out there could share trailers and food safety and equipment integrity could be kept intact. And those are the two caveats that are really, that's the hard part of doing this, is especially when you're hauling produce. How do we ensure that when one guy hooks up to another one, that the food safety and the integrity of the equipment stays intact so that the equipment is safe and the product isn't damaged, and who damaged it and where does the liability fall?
You touched on this a bit when you said that there would have to be some honoring of times and commitments, but is there improvements to communications or technologies that need to be put in place to help streamline driver information from a shipping point to transport to the customer receiving the dock to just really make the system as efficient as possible for the driver?
Yes, I think some of the things that I know are being worked on are geofencing so many of the locations along the way, geofencing the sheds so that you can tell from sitting at your desk that they've arrived at the location, they've left the location. Then along the way, certain stop rest points that he's made his 10 hours, and boom, everything needs to be transparent right from the truck, or even more so than the truck. The trailer would have a GPS unit on it, so when the truck switches out and the trailer keeps moving, you still see that. Previously the technology just hasn't been put in the trailers. You can put it in with a GPS temp tail or something, but the actual trailer unit itself, to have the satellite the GPS technology installed in the trailers, that's more so where the industry needs to go, and then just ticking off those relay points along the way.
So we've seen actually some interesting advancements, at least announced and experimented with. The Tesla electric trucks. There's been some experiments with self-driving vehicles. Is kind of the e-log going to be one of the catalysts that helps drive this innovation a little bit further?
Yeah, the solution to e-logs is getting rid of the person so that the machine can just continue to run. Now, a person would have to be in the vehicle at this point anyways to do the city work because there's just too many variables, but on its own highway, or I'd be scared to put it on highway with people just in case, but that's me right now. In 10 years, probably not. But yeah, that's the solution, is because the machine doesn't have to stop. There's no rest. You can just drive straight from Texas to Winnipeg, and once you get there, then it could be distributed with humans or regional drivers or whatever, but all those long shots from a Texas point or a Nogales point would be just straight highway with a machine. Yeah, obviously, I guess electric truck, you don't care about fuel prices. The cost of it, I know many of the guys that we talked to in Vancouver are switching to it. The sticker price of the original cost of it, that doesn't seem to matter to them very much. They've calculated right down to each trip for the fuel savings, and it's not necessarily that it will change what they can get for the industry until like more and more and more of the electric trucks get out there, and then it would drive it down as well. If it's still a mix of fuel and that cheaper to get into a fuel truck, and the team trucks are driving those, then we won't see. Maybe it'll be 2020 before we see enough of a decrease to get freight back to where it was in 2017, if it does.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. You're obviously very knowledgeable on the subject, and you were definitely the right person to come to.
Right on, yes.
All right, and that's it. That's all that we have for you this month on Produce Talks. I want to thank Jaret for joining us and sharing his great knowledge with us. I want to thank Selena for letting us know about this month's Fresh Health Award winner. And I want to thank Nature Fresh Farms, our sponsor for the podcast. The continuing support has been awesome. I would also like to thank you for listening. Until next time, remember to seek out new knowledge, look for new ways to acquire skills, and to basically never stop growing.
You will now be disconnected by the moderator.